What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Minecraft command block tutorial video. I know it's been a long time. I'm sorry, guys. For all of you who've subscribed before my command block tutorials, well, today I have an awesome one for you. I've been looking at my old command block tutorial videos, and this one was something that was requested quite often in most of my command block tutorials. So I decided to make it. Basically, every so often inside of the game, you can rewind or change your location. So that armor stand was summoned in my current location, and I could teleport to him at any given time using a time jewel. So if I throw it down on the ground, cool particles will summon and I will teleport to that armor stand. They will not disappear after you teleport to them, so you could constantly teleport to them as many times as you wish in that current location because it is set every so often. If you wish, you could time it up. You can slow it down. You can even kill them whenever you finally teleport to them. That's totally up to you guys. I'm just giving you a basic concept. You could change this anywhere in the world, and it is multiplayer friendly. I had somebody on my world, and we were going to do a video, but he had to get off, so sorry about that, I can't show you, but it does work in multiplayer, and I made it to where you can actually make this to realms. So I have all the commands here. They're kind of scattered, but let's go ahead and take a look so you guys can create this yourself. But before we get into the video, real quick on the tutorial part, if you guys would like to see more command block tutorial videos on the channel, hit that like button. If we can get 500 likes on this video, which I don't know if that is even possible, but some of my videos get 500 likes, but if we get 500 likes, I will have another command block tutorial come out for you guys. All you have to do is leave a comment on what kind of command block tutorial videos you would like to see in the future, and I'll get them out for you guys if that's something that you're still interested in seeing on the channel. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go ahead and turn the armor stands off real quick so they don't get in my way as we make the video. So let me delete that. So the first few commands that you're going to need are these right here. It's called an ID system. The ID system that I made was quite a while back, but I went ahead and made it for realms, basically a little bit better. So it has have a cap. Instead of giving a player each one, you'll actually cap out at 12, which is basically good for a realm. So if 10 people are on the game plus the owner of the realm joins, that's 11 people on the game, this will reset. Then if you want to change it before then, that's totally up to you. So the first few are going to be a scoreboard players, add at all ID 0. Once you get that, you can come over here, and it's going to be execute at all. Scores equal ID 0, count 1. Scoreboard players add max ID 1. Basically, what that's saying is if there's somebody that's on the ID system that's 0, it will add 1 to max ID. And this first one here is basically adding everybody that joins the game brand new to 0. So you're going to be added to 0 the moment you join the game because it's repeat always conditional. And this one is chain conditional always active. That means this one will activate after this one activates. This next one is the same thing. It's chain conditional always active. It's going to be executing at a score ID 0, count 1. That means one player that is just got the score of ID 0 will then get an operation and equal the max ID that was given. So if one person joins the game, which said me, which would be the person that does the commands, I would be given the ID of 1, which you see ID of 1. Somebody else joins the game, that player is offline right now, but they are given an ID system of 2, which is now a max ID of 2. So once a total of 12 people have joined your game, or 11 people actually, it would reset and then everybody would be given a new ID, so it never goes past 12. It's kind of complicated, but basically it's multiplayer friendly, so that way you can actually choose who has what with what ID. So yeah, right now, if that person was to join, they would be given 2. If somebody else was to join, they would be given 3, and so on. So once a total of like 11 people have totally joined the game, in general, it would reset. So then all the people that currently had an ID system will no longer have that IDs because it was being reset. And this is how you reset the ID system. So basically you would be given an executing score of an ID of 12, which would be max ID. That would be the only one that's be given 12 because once 11 players total has joined the game, max ID would be given 12, which is from over here. As you guys can see, max ID has 2. So if the 11th player has finally joined the game, or you on a realm, you know, people come and go very quickly. Once 11 has joined, It'll reset. Everybody inside of the world will be given a new ID, and it will just continuously cycle. So this would remove the ID score, the objectives, and this one would add it right back. There's a ton of different ways to make this where it operates like that. That's totally up to y'all if you want it to do that. Like I said, you guys can play around with your own ID system, maybe make it a little bit different. This is just currently an ID system that I made, and I decided to stick with it for this tutorial. Now let's move on to these. These are some awesome ones here. I'll get over those in a second. But the first one you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create a cooldown dummy. You don't have to name it cooldown, but I would recommend naming it a cooldown dummy because that's how often these armor stands will spawn. That's the whole purpose of the cooldown. So basically it'll add all players to cooldown 1 constantly. Now I use these in a lot of my functions and a lot of my add-ons. I actually use the same scoreboard objective cooldown. Basically, it's going to constantly add everybody that joins the game to a cooldown of 1. And then this one is going to say, okay, anybody that has a cooldown of 300 will get back to 0. So yeah, you could change 300 to whatever it is that you want. That's the reset timer. So if I come over here and click this one, you can see that cooldown is constantly going up. Once it hits 300, it'll reset back to 0. Now this one over here is going, the bottom one, this one is going to say, okay, if it accidentally somehow glitches and reaches 301, it'll go back to 0 as well. You do that a few times if you wish, 302, 304. That's if you wish and have some issues with lag or something on your server or realm. I would recommend that. Now this one over here is executing when a score of cooldown equals 299, which is right before it resets. It will summon an armor stand at the player. So that's every player that enters your game. An armor stand will summon. That's the one that I turned off, where the armor stands kept summoning around me. This one is basically going to kill the armor stand. Once you have a 297 score, it's going to kill the armor stand. That's what those do. And this one is what's going to give the armor stand the same ID system, so you don't teleport to someone else's. So if, like, say that pig was running around and it summoned an armor stand, and then my armor stand was right here, I won't teleport to that armor stand or that other player's armor stand because I have my own specific armor stand according to my ID. And that's what this one's going to do. It's going to basically execute at all scores equal ID between 0 and 10, which is normally how many people are on a realm or a world. Is 10. You could change that to 12, like I said, or 11, and then it's going to execute an armor stand within 1 block radius of that. It's going to execute another, so any person that has a score between 0 and 10, and there's an armor stand within 1 block of that person that has an ID system, it will then do a scoreboard player's operation. Operation is basically whenever 2 things happen, you can either equal, greater than, less than, or percentage. And a couple more. I have a video on operations if you're interested in that. But this one's going to do a scoreboard operations of that armor stand to the closest player, which would be you, to that ID. So it's basically going to add your ID to that armor stand, so then now I can link the 2 into teleporting. These 2 over here you're going to constantly have to create a little bit more. These 2, you're going to have to add up to 10 or 11 of these, depending on how many people are in the game. If you're making a little mini game where only one person can use this, then you don't need these many commands. But this one right here, it's going to execute at the scores of an ID 1. It's then going to execute the armor stand that has an ID not 1. 4 block radius, going to teleport that player 5 blocks. So if you do not have a score ID of 1 and you run up to any armor stand that does not have an ID of 1, you will get teleported away. So you can't overlap their ID system and take their teleportation every 15 seconds. That's what makes it multiplayer. And you would have to continuously do this command, like this one is 2 and not 2 in the scores here. And you would have to do a 3, you would have to do a 4, a 5, 6, a 7, an 8, 9, and a 10, and an 11, depending on how many people you plan on having this system operate with. So that way, everybody will be able to have this. And if, say, this ID person runs over my armor stand, this one is my armor stand, and I have it set to 1, and I can teleport to it. So if that other person runs up to this armor stand, it'll teleport them back, and they cannot get close to my armor stand because that is my armor stand, and I'm meant to return there every so often in the game. That's how that would work. But you would, like I said, just add a whole bunch to those. Let's go ahead and look at these. Now these you would have to add 2 because this is 1 and that's 2, and you would have to add 3, 4, 5, 6. But this is the teleportation with the time gem. So this first one is going to execute at all scores equal ID of 1. Execute at the name equals a time gem within 4 blocks of the player that has an ID of 1. Then you're going to teleport that player with an ID of 1, which is all players, but there can only be 1, so it doesn't matter. Then you're going to execute a type equals armor stand scores equal ID of 1. What this command is saying is any player that has an ID of 1 that is close to a time gem, any item named time gem, so it could be any item, and you're within 4 blocks of that item, you're going to then teleport that player with an ID of 1 to the armor stand with an ID of 1. That's how that would execute. And you would do the same for each one. So you would need a 2 right here, so it says ID equals 2, ID equals 2, ID equals 2. You need that constantly all the way to 11 or however many players. And then this one is just going to execute the particles command. This is the dragon death explosion, which is the cool little explosion whenever you see me teleport back to the armor stand. So you'd have to do this one the same as well. It's going to execute at the player with an ID of 1. It's going to then execute a particle command. This is a conditional, chain conditional always active. So when this command, which is repeat always active, runs, it will then execute this particle command and then kill the gem, which is a chain unconditional always active. Now here we get into something kind of cool. This has a delay ticks of 3. So there was a few issues. There was about 5 people on the game earlier when I was recording, or not recording, but like playing with the commands, and the time was set to 0. If you're not familiar with a tick delay inside of commands, basically it so often how fast this operates. How many ticks? 20 ticks is 1 second. So this is almost a fraction of a second, but it's still faster or slower than a repeating command block by like so small, so tiny. I recommend 3 because now it will operate kind of a little bit less. If you have 10 or 15 people in the game, I might change this to 5 or 10 delay ticks. But surely this would be pretty good. So yeah, so what that whole line of command right there does is when I throw this on the ground, it'll execute those particles and teleport me to the armor stand, so you guys can see. Cool particles, kills that over there. And that's how that works. And like I said, these you would just need to repeat. All those are 2. These are 2. You could change the particles for each person if you wish. Kill E time gem. So that's it. That's how you would do those. You can link all of these last ones if you wish. That's totally up to you because they're all the same command. Now getting into these over here. These 2 are going to say when you have a player that has a score cooldown of 297, it's going to execute the closest player with a score ID of 1 within a 3-block radius. It's going to then kill the armor stand with a score of ID equals 1. So what this command says is it's going to execute all players that have a cooldown of 297. So it doesn't matter who it is, but when you add another execute, which is the closest player of an ID of 1, which is me because I only have the ID of 1 in the game, it will then kill the armor stand that also matches my ID system. So if there's somebody else with an ID of 2, it's not going to work for them. But it will because you have to do it for every single one. But we're all set on our own cooldowns. So you can see that my cooldown goes up. If somebody else was to join the game, their cooldown would start. But not all armor stands would die at the same time. It's only going to die because I have an ID of 1 and it's killing the ID of 1. But when it reaches that, it will then execute for those. So that's pretty cool. Moving on over here, this is just if you decide you want to turn the armor stands invisible. That is totally up to you. This is the command for that. So that way you don't see them, but you can still get the cool effects. These 2 are just showing the cooldown and the ID for that. That's how you would do that, just a sidebar objective. This one is the no gravity for the armor stands. A lot of people kept asking me for this. How do you make something not have gravity in command blocks? Well, this is the command. You would just execute itself and teleport itself at itself. That's about as easy as it's gonna get. So that's all the commands for this cool command block creation. Yeah, let me know if you guys liked it, and if you if you're new and stuff, subscribe. Sorry for my voice, guys. I am feeling very, very ill right now. I do have strep throat, and my daughter's sick, and my wife is sick as well. But hopefully you guys still enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Comment down below any cool suggestions or other video ideas, command block ideas, or anything that you just feel like commenting. Also, if you're new, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. I'm Dacon Black Rose, and I'm out.